Catus, Maximus here. This is just a quick review of the Titan external Torx socket set. They had these in the store. They had the 8-piece, 1/4 inch, 3/8, and 1/2 inch socket, but they also had the larger ones, making it a 13-piece set. Do recommend that because it always sucks to run into one of these larger ones and not have the socket for it. This is also a quick tip. I'll probably do a video, but many people are reading a lot of reviews about these twist lock type packaging, which actually is pretty effective for plastic packaging when holding on to the sockets. You have to actually cut a little tab there and a little tab there. There are other options. Sometimes you can just get away with actually just bending it and brute forcing it, just like so. And on this packaging, it looks like you can do that. Another thing you can do is how it works inside is there's a little tab. So when you can see that right here. So when you twist lock it, this tab presses against these, and that's how it actually manages to hold so well. So you can always just stick a screwdriver in there and just dig it around a little bit. And as soon as you do that, well, it didn't work quite as well as I had hoped. But if you just dig the screwdriver around, then you can usually get those tabs to release. And then in this one, I'm sure I can, there we go. So usually it's really not such a big deal, but really a flathead screwdriver for just prying them out. I mean, they intend for the sockets and tools not to slip off this packaging, and sometimes they do too good of a job. So this is a full set, E6 through E24 of external Torx. External Torx is really, sadly to say, it's another fastener that nobody really needed. As if there weren't enough fasteners, but it's slightly different because it looks a whole lot like, what is this? 6-point spline. It really does look like just a 6-point version of the same spline with just really big gaps. As a matter of fact, unlike traditional Torx sockets, E-Torx, which have these lobes, it almost seems that they came out with this fastener style because it has some of the spline drive properties. Obviously with E-Torx, just due to these lobes, it's basically impossible to really get any kind of use them on other alternative types of fasteners. Sometimes you can get away with it a little bit here, like with this 14mm. But it seemed, I was fiddling around and I thought it was so strange that on these E-Torx style, which are 6-point spline for the 17mm bolt, this thing would be like a perfect extractor socket. You can just see how well, oh, it doesn't have a big enough hole for pass-through, but it holds onto that just absolutely perfectly. And that's what I was noticing about a lot of these other socket sizes here. Is say this one right here will work on 14mm just fine, and it would also work on 9/16. So I won't demonstrate a bunch of other fasteners, although interestingly enough, even on these smaller sizes here, I have a square. And you can even use them to drive squares. So they have a lot of the same universal properties as regular old spline drives, except for their 6-point. And I do appreciate Titan, where they kind of give you an idea of what these are for. And apparently many of the Ford aluminum pickup trucks are using these style of fasteners. And even though these don't fit quite as well as a traditional Torx, these sockets can drive older style Torx, although they don't have quite as good a grip. It's just that you can't use any of the older style tooling with the newer fasteners because this curve will prevent the socket from going on. So essentially what it means is that on the E-Torx, the tooling is downward compatible, but when it comes to internal Torx Plus, it's just the opposite. The old tooling with the thinner wings will fit in the newer fasteners, but not the other way around. I think that's an interesting property. I have actually not, I've seen online, but not anywhere in any of the stores, internal drive Torx Plus, but it seems that they're really becoming most prevalent as an external form of fastener. And that's the reason I got them, is because when you run into them, you know, these sockets, or excuse me, the old Torx just simply won't fit on these fasteners. Although them being 6-point spline, I'm wondering if regular old spline drives might actually be, you might be able to use them on these newer style Torx. And then the fact of noticing that they act like, you know, they're just a 6-point socket now. They just have big cutouts. There's like 2 little flats there. They're not like the old Torx, and there's no reason for them to really come out with this new tooling, to tell you the truth. Maybe it holds on a little easier than older style Torx or something, but As if there weren't enough different fasteners. Now we have even more of them. As far as the general quality of the Titans, they all seem to be pretty well made. These are, what's funny on the packaging is on these larger ones they were saying impact grade, but on the smaller packages they said nothing about being impact, although they're obviously still are impact. One odd thing is how the 1/4 inch and 3/8 have just this totally different finish from these larger 1/2 inch drive ones, and I'm a bit curious about that. They are cheaper because, of course, none of these sockets have any roll stamping on them. And they don't have any through holes like a traditional impact socket. They just use little undercuts like traditional chrome sockets. It'd be nice if Titan would occasionally have their products checked once they get them onto the shelf. I was just making the thumbnail for this, and I was like, you know, what's going on here? Do I have a bunch of sockets upside down? I don't. The sockets that came in this packaging are laser etched the opposite directions of the sockets that came on the 3-piece set that came on the larger package. So that's always a little bit annoying once you get these on here and you say, well, why on earth are half my sockets upside down, or I should say 3/4 of my sockets upside down? It's because Titan didn't double check. And you can also see they're in the middle here, and it's right near the bottom on this one. So ouch on the quality control. So they're okay, and these are, I actually found these at O'Reilly's, and so, you know, if you're running on one of those, I guess, newer Fords and a few other vehicles, if you run into these fasteners, at least, you know, there's a place where you can locally go and grab some. And for everybody else, yep, it's just another fastener, which optimally you really do need, yep, more sockets, and you don't want to get more sockets that you only use unless you happen to be replacing a bed on a, you know, a 2016 or 2017 newer Ford pickup. But, you know, once one manufacturer starts using them, more manufacturers start using them, and then when you run into one of these, if you don't have the tooling, it's just sucks. It's like trying to figure out something else to maybe work on the fasteners, or you just can't do the job, which is always the unfortunate thing. And one of the reasons I collect such a variety of tools is because it's better to have a variety of tools, even if, you know, many of them are not the best grade, because it allows you to finish a job, allows you to get paid for that job. Then you can use that pay to maybe buy better grades of the tools that you use to complete the earlier job. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing, even though sometimes I do videos about sound cards. And if you haven't subscribed to the Catus Maximus channel, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.